Hello and welcome to My Side of the Bag. I'm Drew Hinesley, joined as always by my co-host Scott Leonard, aka Scotty Worldwide. Scotty, back in SoCal. How you doing?
I'm doing good. A little tired. Had a 4-day trip out at Pinehurst. My first time there, but it's a great trip. A lot of golf, but happy to be back at home and having a couple of weeks off before finishing the season down in Florida. So super excited to have a little time off. So
Well, My Side of the Bag sponsored by Birdie Brands Bug Spray Game On, Bugs Gone, and also by Uncle Keith's Red Sauce. You call it red sauce, you call it salsa. When you have Uncle Keith's, you can call it a party. Scotty, why don't you introduce our guest?
all right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by a caddy legend today. Uh, my dear friend and caddy for world number one, Nelly Corda. We're joined, my side of the bag is joined by Jason McDede today, and we're ecstatic to have him. Such a pleasure for us. Jay, let's just go right into it. I wanted to have you on here to talk about your experiences. You've had some of the coolest in golf, just by virtue of, how hard you work. And I, for one, don't feel like you get enough credit for how hard you work. And I see you working every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday. But let's go back. Let's go back before 2008 and you get the Nelly car. Can you just talk about kind of your story and your way into caddying, because we're a long way away from Dick Sports.
Yeah, we are a long way away from Dick Sports. Thanks for having me on. Number one, it's a pleasure to see you guys. I haven't seen Drew in a long time. Miss you, and Scotty, I see you occasionally, but within brief passing. Yeah, I mean, caddying was never really in the cards for me. It's something that sometimes I go to bed at night and still think, what do I do for a living? Because it's just something that I wouldn't say I fell into it, but I was just at the right place at the right time, and I knew the right person. I got my Class A in 2009 and was working in the TPC network. I worked up at Avenel for a couple years, transferred down to Tampa Bay for a couple years. I was looking for a head pro job, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and so I moved back home, and that's when Dick's Sporting Goods was hiring all those Class A golf professionals, 40 hours a week, great benefits, call your own hours and teach in a simulated bay. Like, dude, that was the dream ticket back then. So took a job in Melbourne, Florida, where I'm from. And I was just literally at lunch break on the mall, Melbourne Square Mall, and I ran into Vicky Hurst, who, we were from the same town. Melbourne's a small town, and back then 2009 2010, Vicky was a phenom, like won a ton on Epson, came out, had a couple really good years on the LPGA, maybe not the best years, but like solid. Like, she was going to be a highly touted player. And we had known each other from playing golf kind of here and there locally in the area, and she was just like, what are you doing? I ain't seen you forever. And I said, well, I'm back here, teaching at Dick's, whatever. And we just shot the shit for 5-10 minutes, and it was gone, over with. And then I think we had played golf maybe one or two times after that, and then she was just like, man, I can't find a caddy. Like, I'm just, I'm bouncing around between nowadays all my friends, but back then I had no idea who these guys were, so I'm like, whatever. And she's like, man, I would love if you would just try to come caddy for me for a couple weeks. And I talked to my parents and talked to a bunch of my friends, and I don't know. I had just done a bunch of traveling, working for TPC, so I was happy being home, and it was a tough pull for me to do it, because of course the two she wanted me to do were Portland, Oregon, which was back then, it was the Safeway Classic, and then the next one was in Vancouver, back to back Canadian Open, and it was the week before the Solheim was going to get picked. I'll never forget it. And she needed a good week, obviously, to make the Solheim Cup team. So here rocks up the guy that's never caddied before a day in his life on pretty much maybe her most important week of her career, aka I'm late to the tournament because I have some flight issues through Houston. I show up not knowing anything about anything. Like, literally, I know golf, but I've never stepped foot on the LPGA tour. I don't know anybody. And we get paired. I'll never forget, first tee on Thursday morning. I Miyazato, who was like world number one at the time, and Anna Nordquist. And here I am. I'm like, what am I doing here, basically. Long story short, make a bogey on 18, play amazing golf, and I think lose the golf tournament by 1 or 2. Finish, I think MJ might have uh, maybe finished second. It's so far like back in my brain. She either finished second or third right off the bat, and I was like, wow, great playing. But I knew she was that good. Like I had played with her a bunch. So it wasn't a shock to me that, she had just gone about her business, played really good golf, getting to the scoring tent. And as we're walking to the scoring tent, there's Rosie Jones. And she was the Solheim Cup captain in 2011. And, I think the Solheim Cup was going to be in like 3 or 4 months, or maybe 2 or 3 months, whatever. And she looked at Vicky and she said, "Look, I'm going to pick you for the Solheim Cup team, but that guy right there is going to caddy for you." And I was like, "Probably not. Like, I'm going back to work in like 10 days." So that's probably a tough sell. I know it's
Mm.
probably a long-winded story, but it's a true story, and it's how I got into caddying. And I haven't missed many events since then. So it's been a kind of a thing that's been thrown my way, and I feel like looking back now, I don't see my life any different. But yeah, that's how I got into it.
Awesome. And for those that you don't know, I know Nellie's talked about it when she did her interviews with Claire Rogers, and I know the story because I know Kyle, but just take our listeners through how you got the Nellie job and how that came to be.
Yeah, so I was kind of in between jobs. I had worked for a Japanese player for a while. That kind of came to an end in I think 2017. So I was kind of filling in for Lizette Salas, working for a couple girls here and there. Really good friends with Kyle Bradley, who was caddying for Jess Corda at the time, and he kind of called me mid Asia and was like, "Hey, man." Something happened with Nelly and her caddy. I know she's a rookie, but she's good. And, she's kind of looking for a player or looking for a younger caddy with experience that's fun. And, you kind of fit the mold. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. But at that time, like, it was weird. Lizette Salas went on this crazy run in Asia, didn't finish like outside of the top 7, like every tournament. So I remember getting to CME and like it was a pretty tough decision. I mean, one that I definitely made the right call on. But yeah, I was lucky enough to have them be interested. And I sat down over Thanksgiving. Me and my wife talked about it, and she's like, "Nelly Corda is a phenom. Like you dealt with a phenom kind of in Vicky. Like I feel like what you're getting into expectation wise, and just work wise, and dealing with other things other than caddying." So she's like, "I feel like you should take the chance." So my wife and me, I mean, ultimately I made the decision, but like having a wife that was a player, kind of know the pedigree of the Corda family and the history, and so it was a really cool way. I don't think I've ever bought Kyle Bradley enough beers, to be honest with you. But Jess was a good friend of mine as well, so it just really fit, and I felt like there was a little bit of learning curve to get to know Nelly because she was so young back then. But it felt like I already had kind of known her, being that her and her sister are pretty identical in a lot of ways. So it was an easy transition for me, and I felt like for her too. We played a lot of practice rounds together. Kyle and me were really good friends, so it kind of gelled pretty quickly.
All right. So for those that do not know, Caroline Masson, did I say her last name correct?
Yeah, good. A little
Okay.
German twang there too.
That is Jason's wife, a former Solheim Cup player, represented Germany, I believe, in the Olympics.
Yeah.
So this is your wife is a top shelf player herself. So talk about what an asset she is. Maybe not even just to you, but also to Nelly, to kind of have a little bit of a buffer sometimes for both of you, or at least a sounding board when decisions are being made, or maybe when emotions are high. How important is it to have a wife that you can come home to and maybe just relax and just say, what do I need to do better? And you can trust this person implicitly, and not just because she's your wife. She's a pro golfer as well, and she's going to see the things that maybe you need to do.
Yeah, I think that's been a huge part of my career for sure. Decision making, planning, like you said, sounding board, getting ideas. What can I do better? How can I work harder? How can I maybe work less hard sometimes? It's
Hmm.
like sometimes we always think working harder is the answer, but I think that in caddying, you kind of have to let go a little bit as well. And I think I've learned a little bit of that along the road with Nelly, is that over caddying is a detriment as well. So having a wife that is a world class player has definitely helped. It definitely like feel like Nelly looks at her as a veteran player too. Carol's been on tour for between LET and the LPGA 15 years. So I mean she's a mom now. She's a veteran voice that is very comforting for both of us. And yeah, I mean honestly, Carol's been our biggest cheerleader through all the success with Nelly as well. She's always the first person to be on the green and congratulate us and take care of travel for me and for Benton and everything that goes along with winning that again people don't see because travel becomes very pear-shaped at Sunday afternoons. And so yeah, I mean I definitely couldn't do this without her. And I've really respected the fact that she's also kind of held her career together through, obviously Nelly's run as well. She's had a couple really good years before she had a baby. So it was nice to see her kind of spur off of Nelly too a little bit. I think she would say that she was inspired by Nelly to get better, to get faster, to get stronger, because she did play a lot of practice rounds with her and she did watch a lot of her golf. And I think that she realized, like, wow, the next generation is really good at golf.
Well, you kind of led me into my next question. We all get into this because there's a very strong competitive streak in all of us.
For
So,
sure.
is there ever maybe that uncomfortable, hi, honey, I'm home because you had a good day, she didn't, or she shot 62 and you guys had a rough day? Is there ever any of that you want to share with us?
Well, I think we learned long time ago in our relationship. I caddied for Kiro at the latter end of like 2014 and 15. I caddied for about 18 months, and Carol had some really good events, played really good. I caddied in the Solheim Four in Germany in her home country, which was a huge thing for her resume. But we realized that like going home together and talking about the same stuff that we did together on the golf course was probably not going to work long term. So I think we've learned that as long as we both go out and try our best and come home together and it's not as a unit as we're together, I think we can talk, even though maybe the shot difference is 7 shots. It doesn't feel the same as if I was on the bag for
Mm.
those 7 shots. So I think Caro at the end of the day, she's been really supportive for me and I've been supportive for her. And I think that if we both look back on our careers, we would both say we couldn't do what we did without each other.
Well, I can tell you from experience, I dated some players I was working for, and you find out rather quickly one of the two sides of the relationship is going to end rather quickly.
Quickly.
And in
Yes.
both cases, I found out in both ways I'm very easily replaceable.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah,
It
I
didn't
know.
take
yeah.
them very long either way. So,
Yeah. No, it's a difficult it's difficult because it becomes everything, and I think that's so hard to wrap your head around for people that aren't in the golf industry. Like, what do you mean it's everything? It's like, well, it consumes your mind. I think normal people go to work, they leave work and they don't think about work until they go back the next day. And I think caddying and playing professional golf is very different to that. You're just always laying in bed thinking about, man, that shot or that wind or the player doing this there, not saying that there, or saying too much there. And, I
Yeah,
feel like if you're very passionate, like all three of us are about our craft, that we're always wanting to get better.
well, and I
absolutely.
remember hearing Joe LaCava say years ago with Tiger, he had a midnight rule. Like Tiger would send him text at 2:30 in the morning saying, "Hey, do you see what the wind's doing on that par three tomorrow?" And if it was after midnight, Joe wouldn't text him back. Like that was his cutoff point of trying to turn Tiger's brain off
Yeah.
because he knows Tiger's again. a lot like us. He just lays in bed all night thinking of what's going to happen tomorrow and trying to go ahead and prepare for every contingency. So does
Right.
does Nelly have any habits like that? That sometimes you have to say, "Hey, take it easy, pro."
I think like warm ups are big, like important for her. She likes to play or have a really good warm up, and sometimes that would be where I would step in and try to remind her that it's a warm up. I think all great players feel like they should hit right out of the gun every time, every shot, every wind, every lie, every whatever. Even with the girl counting the clubs in the backswing, and some volunteer telling her that he remembers her from 5 years ago, and it's if we're being honest, like it's not the simulation of a real intense golf shot on a practice range. So I think that would be the one thing that I would say that I try to. Obviously, I'm very serious, but I also have real, realistic expectations of like, hey, look, when the gun goes off, then the bubble comes. I mean, we're in a pretty tight bubble in our camp, no matter what. But I sometimes have to remind her during a warm up, like, hey, like it's a warm up. Like let's figure this out. We got 45 minutes. Like we'll get it figured out before we head to the first tee.
Yeah. Jay, again, I give you a lot of credit because I don't think you do get enough, like I said at the beginning of the show. Can you just take us through, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and kind of what your job's like, and maybe the checklist that you have to get done before your boss gets there, or kind of what your process is to get things ready for Nelly?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very diligent in trying to get on the golf course as early as I can be. Whether that be Sunday night, the week before, or Monday morning. I mean, luckily I've worked for the same player for the last 8 seasons, so I know what I'm looking for when I get out there. Um, I'll be real honest, I don't like walking the golf course with many people just because I feel like I know what I'm looking for and that's all I'm looking for. And I mean, I'd love to go have a beer with you after, but like I'm not trying to walk in camps of people. I've learned that my brain doesn't work in camps of people. So I will shoot this shit with you all day, but when I'm looking for what I'm looking for, that's pretty much all I'm out there for. And it's bunker covers, it's lines off of tees, it's clubs off of tees. Obviously, Nellie's one of the longer players and likes to stay aggressive off the tee. That's her strength. So I'm looking to try to hit driver everywhere by default, unless it's really not in the cards. And then green wise, Nellie's pretty independent on the greens, but I'll have a look and just make sure nothing has really changed with the greens as far as grass, as far as grain, stuff like that. I'm walking the green covers and I'm walking the green runouts. But I'm not one of these guys that's going to overdo it on the green because I don't know, I'm a little bit old school in the fact that like I feel like wind, grain, pin position, you really can't plan for exactly what you're going to do. So again, I feel like I've learned in the over caddying thing that I talked earlier is to myself have enough energy on the weekend when it's time to roll too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jay, looking back, like you said, you kind of took, somewhat of a gamble. Like Lizette was playing well. How satisfying is it now to look back on and see you guys have done this run together, right? Because you took Nelly, and I mean, we know it's a team game. We're smart enough to understand that. Nelly's smart enough to understand that. So how just kind of satisfying is it for you to look back and be like, not only did I make a great call because we all knew who Nelly Corda was, but that we've done this work and you guys have done this together.
Well, before you answer that, Jason, start the answer with telling us what was Nelly ranked when you were trying to make this decision.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not like one of these crazy people that knows. I know that she had made it into Asia. I know she had made it into CME. I think she was probably, if I had to take a guess, 80th, 90th, 60th. To be honest with you, I really have no clue. I have no clue. But I knew who she was. It was funny. I played with her in Blue Bay the Sunday she was playing really well in Blue Bay. Jack and her had split, and she had another guy on the bag. And sure enough, we get paired with her in Blue Bay on Sunday. And I don't know that I kind of am looking at it, but I'm not really knowing what the next 7 days is going to bring to my, to my decision. But yeah, no, we had a good time. I knew she was a really fun kid. She was super athletic, super raw, like probably the most talent I had ever seen in my time out here. And she was just like really cool too. Like Nellie's a dude. Like I call her dude all the time. Like she's a really cool person to kind of go to battle with. Like she's a lion, she's a fierce competitor, but she's also like really funny too. Like we have a relationship that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. So yeah, so I mean the decision was, looking back on it, it wasn't that hard. I mean, if I'm being really honest, like it was just one of those things that I was just like, okay, I think more the decision of like going to work for another phenom, I think was the hardest decision, because it's not, no matter how many people say they want to do it, it comes with a lot of internal and pressure from yourself to perform, from the outside media, from sponsors, from everything. Like you're in the spotlight every day. Like there's no bad days. You can't have a bad day. And I think that's the hardest thing, is that people say they want to do it, but when you get in the mix of it for a long time, it's a really difficult thing. It's a wonderful thing, but it's a very difficult uh, job to just maintain your levels all the time.
How exhausting is that? Like when you come home, how many days do you need
It takes
just
me
to be
three
on the
days to
couch?
start sleeping again after a win. I think the adrenaline is so high. I don't sleep well after a win, or maybe even after a really good tournament, or after maybe a mishap like the British was this year. Where I
Mm.
felt like we should have had it. And you don't let it go for a while. I think that's again part of that thing that I talked about earlier, of letting go of your job and going home and clocking out. I feel like caddies don't do that, because we're trying to put stats in, or we're looking back at this, and your mind's always thinking about what we did really good. But even after wins, you still want to do better. It's a weird thing.
Very, some might call it a thankless job when we're looking at our own performance. We never really pat ourselves on the back. We're always poking holes in our performance so we don't make that mistake, so we don't have that bad day. So I understand that, being almost a perfectionist to a fault. I want to
Yeah.
go back real quick. You talked about you had never seen a player that talented in your time. What
Yeah.
specifically did you see in Nelly? For somebody that may be listening that's working Q school for the Corn Ferry Tour, or maybe looking to get a job on the LPGA with the 98th ranked player, what do they need to be looking for if they want to get a rocket ship to the top like you're on?
I think there's an athletic ability for sure, but there's like an aura around really good players that I think you can watch them walk, you can watch them breathe, you can watch
Hmm.
them interact with people, and you can see the internal drive, the internal confidence, the heart rate stays where it needs to be when they're in big situations. And I think I saw a lot of work ethic in Nelly, and I think that she saw a lot of work ethic in me, and I think that's where our bond strikes. Is that I love that term, work in silence. I don't like to, I don't necessarily think it's great to tell people what you're working on or how you're walking a golf course.
Hmm.
But I think you're doing what's best for your player, and the player's doing what's best for her team to make her win. And I saw that in Nelly pretty much right away the first time I pretty much talked to her. I knew how driven she was. I wasn't definitely on the phone with an 18-year-old girl at that time. So it was like talking to a 30-year-old veteran. And, obviously having the pedigree of her sister and her father and her mother, I knew that it was a win at all cost camp, and I think that's something that many people say they want to do, but I don't think many live by it.
Hmm.
I think it's they trust in their ability, and I think that's the biggest thing. If you're looking to find the next rocket ship, is try to find up and down the most confident person you can find in the room.
Well, and Scotty
Absolutely.
may be on the next rocket ship with Ingrid as she's
Slow
Yes.
coming
down.
out of college with
Slow
40
down.
wins. So I
Yeah.
could be looking back on this interview in a few years saying, I got the top two caddies in the world right here in front of me.
Hey, I played with Ingrid a couple years ago in a scramble tournament at the Moon Golf Invitational. One of my best friends played for LSU, and he's a booster, so we got paired with her. And I tell you, she's got a lot of internal confidence. Again, she's got that.
Mm.
I don't give a shit who you are. Like even when she found out I was Nelly Corda's caddy, didn't like obviously respected the fact, but like wasn't gonna change how she acted around me. Like
Mm.
I think she's got a lot of that in her, Scotty.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I definitely agree. The thing, not to make this about her, but I'm sure you see it too, Jay, that she's not afraid of any golf shot.
No,
So that's what
yeah,
to me impresses me is like we can play as aggressive as I like to caddy aggressive,
yeah,
and I've not been around another player like, or I've not caddied for another player where basically she doesn't give a shit if it's in a bunker or whatever. Like
right.
the bird
If it
making
goes
birdie.
wrong, it goes
Yeah,
wrong, but we're not gonna
yeah,
make it go wrong just because of the circumstance.
yeah. There you
Yeah,
go. Just a couple more, Jay, here for you.
yeah.
Most unnecessary item in Nelly Corda's bag.
This is good.
Most unnecessary item. Probably if I had to answer rain gear because we just have a thing that rain gear is always going to be in there. If you would look
What?
at it from an outsider's perspective, you would probably say like the pool floaty, but the pool floaty comes in handy sometimes because it's a big key to her golf swing. So we do have a pool float that the old water wing thing that you put on your arm
Yeah,
on the in the
yeah, yeah.
golf bag. So if you're looking at it from the outside, you'd say that, but I don't know. I'm the same way. I want to be prepared. I don't care if it's an extra 3 pounds, put the rain gear in it. In my 15-year career, I've been stuck on the golf course without rain gear and an umbrella twice, and I swore it'd never happen again. So, and one of those times it was with hail. So, yeah, 3 extra pounds doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, everybody laughs at me at the things I do and the OCD nature. And I say, I've done a lot of things in my career I'm going to do one time.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. We laugh all the time, and girls are like, "Oh my god, you got." It's like, nope, it's not coming out. It's not even on her. It's on me. I'm like, nope, not coming out.
Is the pool floaty a Jamie Mulligan concept or is that a Nelly concept?
I actually think it's a David Whelan concept, the guy that she started with. It's just always
Okay.
something that we revert back to. It's just one of those things that if she gets in trouble, we always know we can go to the floaty.
All right.
And how much? Okay, this is the number one player in the world, and one of the things I love about when I all these stories I hear about Kobe Bryant is how much he just drilled in the fundamentals in himself. 20 years on, he's still working on some very basic things every single day. How much does Nelly work on the basics?
I mean, you couldn't put a number on it. I mean, every time we get in trouble, there's 2 to 3 things that we always know it is. And I think that's big credit to David, who built the golf swing when she was a junior. And he taught her how to fix it. And I think that's the biggest key is that, you're always going to revert back to your tendencies no matter whatever it is. And especially in golf, you can talk to the David Ledbetters or the Sean Foley's, they're always going to say that no matter what, you're always going to revert back. And I think that she knows what she reverts back to. And I give a big credit to David for teaching her not only the swing, but how to fix it if it goes off.
How involved are you in that process, maybe within a round? Is there no technical talk, let's just compete? Or can you
Uh,
maybe bring something up after three misses?
I think like any top end player, when it's rolling on the tracks really good, just shut up and get out of the way and let's get it on. I think on the hard days, obviously our job gets harder. And I think that's the misconception with caddying. It's like people are like, oh my God, you were in the mix and you won, and that had to be so hard. It's like, no, it was actually just get out of the way, clean the
Yeah.
ball, maybe confirm a couple reads, and like just walk to the next hole. I think the hardest part of our job is when especially with a player caddy relationship that's been long term, they know the misses, they know the tendencies. I think that's when, yes, what did you see there? Ball position, left hip, right hip, where's my spine angle, that kind of stuff, I think is the harder days for me, because to me, it's not about golf then, right? It's more about technical stuff. And I always feel like any player that's playing really good golf is not thinking about technical stuff.
Correct. Yeah, no doubt. Jason, who's some of the caddies that you admire?
Oh man, there's too many to I would say there's probably 3 to 4 guys that I really watch out there and I really look up to. I think Greg Johnston is a big brother of mine. I bounce a lot of ideas off of Gregor. Uh, Intimidating as hell. Uh, but when you get into Gregor's good side, he'll do anything for you.
Mhm.
Um, I would say he's probably the number one on my list. Like, I talk to him a lot about ideas, or just, hey, I'm having a tough time, whether it's with my life or with caddying or whatever. Like, he's always a really good sounding board. He's been through everything. I'd say Brooker I look up to a lot. I mean, Dave's had some of the best players. He's a very confident caddy. I've been in battle with him a lot recently with Jinyon, and I like the way he works. He works very silent. Again, he's not going to wow you with what he knows or how he knows it, but he's just going to do it. And I think that's something that I've tried to emulate myself after too. Is I'm a little bit of a louder person. I'm a little bit of a, I don't know, just a more jovial person. But I think that there's a lot of reason why Dave is the way Dave is, you know, you don't want to give your secrets, or you don't want to let other people into why you're doing so well. So I really admire that about him. And I think our relationship, has become better, over the last couple of years, just because I've learned that that's how Dave is. And then I'd say, work ethic wise, I really don't think there's many people that work harder than Ollie. I really don't. I think Ollie's Ollie, and people can say what he says. I've been on a couple team events with him. I was at the Olympics with him this year. Um, Now Ollie's also going to work hard in the bar afterwards. Um,
Yes.
but he's going to work his ass off on that golf course, and there's
Yeah.
not one thing that, when it needs to be known, he doesn't know. So I'd say that's my kind of my wild card pick.
I like
Okay.
it. I like it.
Well, before we let you go, we wanted to take you through a quick 9 holes, and you've actually hinted on a couple of these already.
Good.
We're going to ask you 9 rapid fire questions. First thing comes in your head. There are no wrong answers. And we're gonna go rapid fire, and we're gonna alternate. Scotty's gonna take the odds, which he's gonna
Okay.
start, and then I'll fill in on the evens.
Okay.
All
Oh
right.
boy. Wish me
Favorite
luck.
city?
Good luck.
Favorite city? Adelaide, Australia.
Easy. Early, late, or late, early?
Depends on if it's a major or not.
If it's a major, when they matter the most.
Early, late.
Okay. What's your reasoning?
Interesting.
I like to get the golf course as soft as it can, because Thursday morning is going to be as soft as it's ever going to be. And
Okay.
I think in a major, you want as much rest. And I always think if you can go a really good round on Thursday, you're going to go late, late, late 3 days in a row.
Okay. I
Interesting.
like that. That's good.
We usually we ask E9 or Pro-Am, but I got a feeling you haven't seen an E9 in a long time, Jason. So
I have.
So
We
I'll
like to
ask
play
this
early.
question.
Okay.
I know you like a good Tuesday morning, but would you like to do an E9 every once in a while and maybe skip a Pro-Am?
Uh, I think the answer, obviously, the cliche answer would be yes, but I think working for Nelly, you need to do the Pro-Am. Like, I think that's a highlight of the week for whatever corporate sponsor is going to be with her. And I think that so many people get an enjoyment out of seeing her actually play golf inside the ropes, that I would say that if my real honest, like, grow the game answer would be do a Pro-Am.
But
So politically
we heard the
correct.
real answer before, so that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got you on tape. All right.
Yeah.
Under the gun, are you a chatty Cathy or are you a silent caddy?
Under the gun, I'd say I'm probably right in the middle. I'm just Jason. I wouldn't say I'm either or. I think I'm doing my job and I'm never going to play gamesmanship with people. I think the best player is going to win. I'm not going to play games, but I'm also under the gun. I'm not going to give information.
Okay.
Okay. Hot and humid or cold and windy?
Hot and humid. Florida boy.
On course go-to snack.
We don't eat much out there. I mean, I'd
That's not that's
say
not that's not good for your athletic
yeah,
performance
I'd say
consistency.
like a half a banana.
Wow.
Yeah. Not an eater out there.
Same. I can't eat out there either.
Drew's
Favorite.
like, You look at him. He's got the biggest biceps.
Maybe we should start eating, Jason.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Favorite caddy or player to be paired with?
Favorite caddy or player? I'd say Ashley, Buhai, and Tanya.
That's a good one. Oh, that's
That is a good one. All right. Don't make me go back.
Huh?
Place.
City tournament. Golf course.
Short
Don't
stop.
make me go back.
San Francisco.
Oof, there you go. Okay.
I'm just not good
Weather?
at I don't know. Something about that city, staying at the airport, driving down. We didn't have a great Olympic club. I don't know the weather there for me as a Florida boy. I don't know.
Yeah, I've
Fair.
And
worked
I've
at
actually won a golf tournament in San Francisco. I won at Lake Merced, but I don't know.
Well, I've worked a bunch of events at all times of the year at Pebble Beach, and I'm always wearing the same outfit, a beanie and a hoodie. And it's like I love Pebble Beach. I just wish I could get some warm days.
I know. No, I hear you.
So I
All right.
understand.
Final one. Number 9. Who should be our next guest?
Who should be your next guest? Have you had Martin Bozak on?
No, we
No, we
have
haven't
not.
had Bird.
No,
Bird,
we haven't.
Bird's a hot commodity right now. He's an interesting guy, and I will say he's my number 4. Even though he's younger than me and he's came out later than me, I respect a lot of things Bird does right now. He's a silent guy. He works in silence. He's a very confident caddy. He knows the golf swing very well. He's a top guy. So I go Martin Bozak.
Well, and something I learned at the Women's PGA Championship at Congressional, staying in the house, he would come over and visit at night. He can play just about any instrument he can get his hands on, and he can play
Yes.
them well.
Yes. No, he's a jack of all trades, knows a lot
Yes.
about fishing, knows a lot about cars. He's single, so he's got a lot of time on his hands. So us that are married with kids, we don't have time. I mean, I can play like a baby ukulele maybe.
Okay. All right. We have to get in touch with Bird. I think
Yeah,
he's
I
Yeah,
coming
will.
on
right
the
it
show
is.
next.
For sure.
Well, Jace, any parting thoughts for us? Anything you want the future Jason McDeeds of the world to know? What
Oh
would you tell
man.
yourself if you could go back to 2008? What would you tell yourself about this crazy life?
Just basically what you said. It's a crazy life. I think it's something that is very fulfilling on the really highs. It's not very fulfilling on the lows, but I think if you can try to get more highs than lows, I think there's no other community like it. I think there's 300 people on our tour day in and day out that we pretty much all know and can all lean on, and if you like to travel and you're young and eager, I mean, there's no better job in the world rather than actually swinging the golf club. So it's yeah, I mean, go for it and keep your head down. And there's gonna be there's gonna be hard times in this job. I think that's the thing that you got to have a good support system around is whether that's the player, person you're dating, your family, whatever. Like there's no caddy you're gonna have on this show that's not gonna say they've been through ups and downs. So you just gotta keep your head above water.
Well, we want to thank our sponsors for today's show. Uncle Keith's Red Sauce. When you have Uncle Keith's, you have a party. And of course, Birdie Brands, Game On, Bugs Gone. And you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, all the social media platforms. Give us a like, give us a listen. Scotty, do you have any final thoughts today with the number
Just
one
hopefully,
caddy in the world?
just hopefully everyone listened to that. That's an insight into one of the best people on tour. Caddies for the best player. So, you know, if that doesn't get you excited and give you some insights into our world, then I don't know what does. But thank you, Jason, for giving us the time. I know you got a little
Thanks,
one at
guys.
home, and
It's
this is your
great to
time
see you
off.
guys. Drew, be good. I hope our paths cross in the future, man.
Me too, buddy. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm always rooting for you. Always love
Thank
to
you.
see you succeed. You know that.
Thank you.
Scotty, thanks for joining me from SoCal tonight. I know you're still a little jet lagged
Hey,
from
get
your
some
trip
rest,
to
All right.
Scotty.
All right, boys. Give us a
Take
like,
care.
give us a listen, and we'll keep giving you our view of the golf world from my side of the bag.